this will. Good evening, current students, BAs, MFAs, faculty, and staff. I'm really honored to be speaking to all of you, my fellow running rebels, my beloved alma mater. I actually lived in the dorm for 2 semesters and I kind of miss it. I could walk across the street and go to PT's pub whenever I wanted, 24/7. To the graduate class, I remember being exactly where you are right now, 18 years ago. The mix of emotions. You're excited, but at the same time, you're crapping your pants. So first things first, congratulations. Not everyone makes it this far. Think of all the right choices and the sacrifices that you made that got you here. I commend you for them. Now let's talk about the big question, the only question. What now? And the only way I know how to address this is by telling you a little bit of my own life journey, which was a mix of serendipitous encounters, perseverance, vision for a person I wanted to become, something that's still working on to this very day, and lots of hard work. Lots of hard work. I was born during a civil war in a third world country. Not the perfect start for anybody, but that's what began to shape me. Since I had to stay indoors and I couldn't go out and play, I watched a lot of movies, and hence I fell in love with cinema. And let me tell you something about true passion. It will be your beacon and it will be your guide that will help you overcome any obstacle that gets thrown at you. Because of this obsession, I became the weird kid that watched way too much TV and was full of useless information. So eventually, upon my graduation from high school in my home country of El Salvador, I had no clue whatsoever what to do with my life. I started business school, but I couldn't focus. I wasn't enjoying the work, and every day became a drag. So I dropped out. And I had a very honest conversation with myself. The only thing I could see losing myself to was my love of cinema. That excited me. So I applied to film schools to Cuba and Mexico, but none of them took me. I don't think I was artsy enough for them. So that became the first test of my resolve. And since I had read somewhere that a young new director by the name of Quentin Tarantino had not gone to film school, but basically studied films by watching them while working at a video store, I decided to do the same thing myself. I got a job at the only video store in my country with an eclectic selection of films, Mr. Movie, and I got to work. There were some resources online that talked about the important films and the important filmmakers, so I watched those. But I actually watched it all. The other cool thing about working at a video store is that you get to take old movie posters home, so my bedroom became a small gallery and a daily reminder of the dream I was chasing. I had a poster of Scorsese's Casino behind my bed, a Pulp Fiction one next to my TV VCR combo, and a From Dusk Till Dawn one in Spanish next to my closet. I was beginning to understand the different styles of filmmaking, and I wanted to acknowledge the ones I truly loved. Because I was following my muse and working behind the video store counter, I honestly believed that the universe conspired in my favor, and I had my first serendipitous encounter with a person who would become an ally, and still is to this day. This guy came in wearing an American cinematographer t-shirt, so that started a conversation. He happened to be a commercial director, and not just any hack. He was the guy who put in all the work, all the research. His name was David Pinto. He invited me to visit his set, and I stayed there for almost 3 years, working as his assistant. It was at his company that I first saw my first issue of American Cinematographer magazine and began to understand how a set worked and what the different camera crew members did. One day, David got a big commission to direct a commercial for our airline carrier, and since that was a big responsibility, he decided to bring in a cinematographer from Mexico, a 29-year-old by the name of Rodrigo Prieto, whom I became friends with. And I will circle back to this relationship later because he comes back to my story. What was important then was this was my first time watching a full-fledged professional cinematographer do his thing. And that's when I knew. I was 20 years old and I received the most amazing gift. I had the realization of what I wanted to do with my life. I finally had a concrete vision for myself. This is what I could chase through every obstacle and every test. This became my goal. It was also during this time working with David that I met another great ally, a person who literally changed my life, Professor Francisco Menendez, who happened to be friends with David and was visiting El Salvador to shoot a short film. So of course, I volunteered and did whatever was needed of me. I wanted to learn more. and wanted to be on an actual movie set. For my help, Menendez was grateful and incredibly generous by inviting me to UNLV and watch him direct the rest of this movie in Vegas. And I slept in his guest room while he worked on Medio Tiempo, which was a co-curricular film project. This experience was incredibly profound in many levels. The students I met during the shoot at UNLV were all passionate about making movies, and we were all growing with guidance from professors specialized in a specific field and working with actual professionals, Panavision cinema equipment. So I made my decision there and then, and a year later, I got a student loan and moved to Vegas to formally study filmmaking at UNLV. Since I knew I wanted to be a cinematographer, I made that the focus of all my efforts. And I started hanging out with then professor of cinematography, the great Michel Hugo ASC. And it was through him that I started learning what made a cinematographer great. It was also through him that I learned about the masters, not just in cinema, but in photography and painting. Any book that he mentioned, I would consume. Any painting that he referenced, I would stare at for hours trying to decipher what made it so powerful. During my time at UNLV, I took all the required courses during the week, and on the weekends, I would shoot. No day off. If you needed a DP, I was your guy. I wouldn't say no to anything. I was able to practice my craft so much that eventually I was asked by one of my professors, David Schmoller, to shoot his film. I was incredibly flattered. By my final year at school, I had so much work in my portfolio that I started emailing frame grabs of some of my best work to my buddy, Rodrigo Prieto, who in the last couple years had become a cinematography superstar. It was a true example of what you could do. As always, Rodrigo was very graceful and very supportive. And when I told him I was finally about to graduate, he asked me if I wanted to come and see him work as an intern on a movie called 21 Grams, which he was prepping at the time. So shy of a month of finishing school, and by permission of all my professors, including Professor Cobb, who processed all my insurance paperwork in record time. Thank you, Professor Cobb. I went off to be a camera trainee in a unionized professional Hollywood movie set. I learned so much. But let me tell you about being a trainee/intern. You don't make any money. So after my 3 months, my brain was brimming with knowledge. My heart was full, but my bank account was completely empty. And with that, and a $50,000 debt, I moved to Los Angeles to sleep on my cousin's couch and plan my next move. In LA, I really wanted to go to grad school at the AFI, but I just didn't have the cash. I already had another loan to pay and not a lot of money coming in. I felt incredibly lucky that I was able to land a part-time job at the stage at Mo Richardson Company, which barely helped me pay my loan, my food, and my bus pass. But it gave me an opportunity to network with all these cinematography fellows at AFI because that's where they came to do other practical courses. So on the weekends, I would volunteer to work on their films in whatever capacity I could. And with a little bit of charm, I managed to get a copy of a list of all the required reading and all the required viewing. So I basically mirrored everything that they did in my own time. If I couldn't go to AFI, I was going to create my own conservatory at home. I'm not going to deny, sometimes I would cry myself to sleep, overwhelmed by the sheer task at hand, the size of the mountain to climb. I would calm down by reminding myself of something that became my mantra. You are doing the work, and you're servicing your dream. It was then I truly started enjoying the process of becoming. I stopped looking at the summit, and I just focused at the daily task at hand. I continued to grow by consuming books and films, but I also sharpened my skills as a camera assistant by doing all sorts of free gigs. Eventually, I did enough of these to collect days to join the Cinematographers Union as a camera assistant, which meant I could start working on bigger sets, even if it was at the bottom of the ladder. This step up also meant more money, but I was so used to not having any that I kept my lifestyle as it was, and I put all my extra earnings into my student loan since I knew that was slowing me down and even making me cautious. The sooner you can pay those off, the sooner you'll be free to take the jobs you want to take and not the jobs you have to take. So what did I do with my newfound freedom? I started working for free again. This time as a weekend cinematographer. During the week, I was a camera assistant, and on the weekends, I was experimenting with my new knowledge on camera and lighting. I also started practicing in how to talk to the director and how to talk to my crew. More importantly, how to behave under pressure, which meant that by the end of my tenure as a weekend warrior, I had not only sharpened my skills as a cinematographer, but I also started creating an on-set persona for myself, a captain of a ship that will demand from their crew, but will inspire with example. Eventually, one of these short films I shot was selected by our camera union as one of the best photographed films by a union member not classified as a director of photography at the Emerging Cinematographers Award. Unfortunately, this happened 2 years in a row. So, although I was being acknowledged for my work, the cat was out of the bag and the phone stopped ringing for the camera assisting jobs. Luckily for me, that student loan was already paid in full and I was ready and unafraid to be poor again. So began yet another chapter in my life, that of a low-budget, non-union feature film cinematographer. Again, I didn't turn anything down. You can check my IMDb for proof of low-budget gems of horror and over-the-top action. From time to time, I was able to score legit small gigs shooting additional photography for some of my mentors, including Rodrigo. I was finally my own boss and living in a way the life I had imagined. Things were not perfect though. I had no union health benefits. I was 36 years old, still living with a roommate, and sometimes I had to go through my savings to pay bills. But I continued to shoot, trusting the process of becoming. Then one day everything changed. My agent called. One of my heroes from my days at the video store wanted to meet me. Robert Rodriguez wanted to set up an appointment to talk to me. Someone somehow had given Robert my name as a young rising DP who deserved a break. An hour later, I found out who that someone was when my old friend Rodrigo sent me a text message saying good luck, followed by a smiley face. Luckily for me, Robert and I were cut from the same cloth, and we were able to break the ice by talking about classic and cult movies. Thank God for Mr. Movie. We talked for about 45 minutes, and we showed each other our latest work. I showed him a little spec web series on my iPad, and he in turn showed me scenes from Sin City 2, which he was finishing post on. We shared laughs. There was definitely camaraderie. Eventually, I asked him what this was all about. So he pulled out his phone and showed me a rendering of a poster with the image of Eiza Gonzalez with vampire fangs and big bold letters that said, "From Dusk Till Dawn, the TV show." This is what I'm doing next, so I need a DP. Unfortunately, I haven't hired anybody new in 15 years. I totally played it cool and asked the questions I usually ask directors by now. Their vision, our opportunities, our limitations. I wanted to sound as professional as I could. We then shook hands, exchanged emails, and said goodbye. As I drove home, I realized there's no chance in hell I'm getting this job. There's probably a line out the door of people wanting to get this opportunity. So fuck it. I worked all week, did my research, and based on the conversation we had, I created a lookbook with images, paintings, comic book renderings, which I knew he liked, and some of my favorite street photographers that I thought could inspire the look of the show. Under every image, I would include famous lines from the movie, which I still knew by heart, and I thought would work perfectly as captions for the images. I emailed him this in a short little message saying I would be thrilled to work with you. I got nothing, complete radio silence for 2 weeks. Then one day my phone rings. It's an Austin number. It's Robert. He sounds enthusiastic. He loved meeting me, and he can't stop looking at these images. He said that they would make a perfect look for the show. And with that, he said, I would be thrilled for you to join me. Come and shoot this thing. The very next week, I was in my rental car in Austin, typing in the address and the GPS for Troublemaker Studios. I remember vividly going through security, proudly saying that I was a new DP and this was my first day of work. As I pulled in and parked my car, the voice on the navigation said, "You have arrived." To which I actually answered and said, "Nope, I'm only beginning." So with that, I'll try to answer the original question. What now? And I say to you, enjoy the process of becoming and work your butt off to do so. I know everyone's going through a lot of weird shit right now, but trust me, believe me, I've been there. I went through a 12-year civil war where it was considered not safe to go outside and play. So use this time wisely. Sharpen your craft and sharpen your skills. It'll prepare you what's to come your way. Thank you.